Happy Sunday, one and all, patriots, brothers and sisters across this great nation. Today, we are going to talk about something that I find extremely fascinating. On the exact same day, within about 12 hours, two different news stations, two completely different cities apart, one in a gun control zone, one not in a gun control zone, do stories specifically on Glock switches and converting semi-autos into full autos. And the things that they say here, they might surprise you. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think about this one. And let me know if I am off in left field or if I landed this plane. And of course, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about, my brothers and sisters. We're going to talk about full auto, semi-automatic conversion stuff, okay? Now, as we go through this, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the NFA and the nuances of it, but if you're not, you can't convert a semi-automatic into a full auto. That's a federal crime unless you have the proper licensure and you're a proper producer and creator. FFL. So this is a highly regulated piece. However, they're having an issue to the point where they want to do Chicago and Atlanta around the proliferation of gun switches. Again, federally illegal. This speaks to the fact that criminals are going to criminal, and that's why we're covering this. Let's get into it. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about because this is an important piece to understand. If you're not familiar with how gun control is a failure, this is a pretty good example. Make my Glock go full auto. How criminals turn standard firearms into illegal machine guns. Now, this came out Friday, August 4th. And again, out of Chicago. I'm going to hit this and then say something really important before I go to Atlanta. Chicago, there's an epidemic of mass shootings, with 2 happening on average every day in America this year. The mass attacks are made possible in many cases by shooters with automatic weapons, frequently converted guns by a simple and small metal switch. Now, they're talking about Glock switches. We know that. We've talked about it a lot. Prisco, who's the guy who was actually selling them, is being held without bond at the MCC Chicago after he was arrested in an Oak Forest neighborhood where investigators say he lived with his parents. Authorities said that the home is where he made the gun kits on a 3D printer. And according to a federal complaint, Prisco was on probation from a similar machine gun conviction in Cook County. He was never jailed for that crime. There's a lot there we're about to unpack. So this guy had previously done this. This guy was living at home with his parents where he had a 3D printer where he was selling illegal conversion devices. Now, I'm going to say a real quick disclaimer. I'm not going to make this video all about should the NFA exist or should it not exist. Should we have full auto? Should we not have full auto? That's not the point. The point that I'm trying to illustrate here is that 2 different news sources from 2 different cities are coming at the exact same perspective, focusing on Glock switches. All the while, they're heavily federally illegal. Again, not litigating should they or shouldn't be. I'm just saying that they are. That's the state of play right now. So if you've got a city of Chicago and a state of Illinois, and the entire state is passing some of the most egregious infringement bills possible on the Second Amendment, how is it possible for criminals to criminal? This speaks to the idea that while you have legal, law-abiding citizens basically suffering under increased licensure cost, increased scrutiny, increased background checks, all of this stuff that they're abiding by, meanwhile, the criminals are over here making full auto devices that are so far beyond what you've done federally and your state level. How does this make sense? If you want a good example, look towards the drug industry, not the pharmaceutical, the illicit drug industry. You got every rule in the book possible, and yet the criminals still persist. The reason's pretty simple. When you've got law abiding over here, and they're suffering under all of your infringements, and you have criminals over here, the more things that you make illegal, you're only making the value go up. You're making the dollar demand go up because there's more risk. Meanwhile, everyone over here is a victim of this behavior. That's what's happening. Again, perfect example is the drug industry, all right? Now, let's keep going. Let me show you some clips out of Atlanta. And by the way, little side note, some of the stuff that they put in this clip, I'd get booted off of YouTube instantly if I showed you this entire clip. Okay, let's keep going, because they actually show you how to do it.
Right now at 10:30, APD says a growing number of criminals are using an illegal gun device to fire rounds of bullets in less than just a few seconds. Our Valencia Jones shows us how they're doing it.
Law enforcement sounding the alarm on a deadly device.
That was the part where they actually break open an actual AR and show you installation on national TV. Yeah. Anyway, so the whole point here is you've got all of this pressure on Glock switches, which are already federally illegal. You've got states that are now passing rules which supplement federally already illegal crimes. So why exactly is this a proof that gun control works? It's not. All you're doing is making a market, an illegal black market from something you've created a demand for. Meanwhile, everyone over here, the legal, can't defend themselves because you've made it harder for them to do so. That's the entire point. That's the entire model. Gun control makes it harder over here and makes it more profitable over here. Again, the drug industry is a perfect example. But let's keep going. I got two more things for you.
1,200 rounds per minute can come from one of these devices.
The danger that they can do on a city street and in a city park is devastating. When an individual pulls the weapon, the shooting doesn't stop.
Just a nitpicky nuance. I think it's interesting that the bolt gun is the main thing there. Anyway, no big deal. This is where it gets. This is the point I'm trying to land here. You've got Chicago, which is an extreme gun control state, and you've got Atlanta, which is a little bit more gun-free state. They just passed constitutional carry last year. So if you've got two different extremes, but the same federal law applies across both of them, and criminals are breaking that law in both cities, it's almost like you have a bigger problem than just, gun control pass or not pass. You have a criminal element problem. You've created a demand for something that should not have a demand, and meanwhile, you have innocents over here trying to defend themselves and their families, and you're making it more difficult on them. That's the whole point. This is an example of gun control failure in two different states. One more clip for you. This is an important thing.
We're seeing more switches affixed to weapons. We're being more switches sold on the street.
People buying them through the internet and using 3D printers to create them, often using silencers to minimize the sound.
This is a public safety issue that impacts everyone. It is an issue that deserves the full attention of our federal partners, our state and local partners, and this is a matter that we will be aggressively pursuing as a police department.
This is what's so interesting to me. They say it demands federal attention. It's already a federal crime. It's in the NFA. It's been there since 1934. Again, I'm not litigating whether it should or shouldn't be, or the NFA should or shouldn't be. I'm not doing any of that stuff right now. But the idea that they're trying to invoke the federal partners on something that's already federally illegal and has been coming on 100 years, it's kind of silly, and it speaks to the futility of what they're trying to accomplish. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.